Welcome back to this second part of Project Loop tutorial. In the previous video, I showed you how I created this 3D text using Blender. In this tutorial, I will show you how to create a loop animation and how to export it.
Let's get started with this new tutorial.
First of all, you need to have your timeline present in your workspace because it's essential for managing animations. Then, go here and in the menu that appears, select the timeline option. I suggest you increase the number of frames. For this animation, I'll use 1000 frames. This way my animation will be fairly slow. Click on the text and go to Object Property. What we need to do is set a starting parameter. My rotation is based on the Z axis, so I'll need to use the rotation parameter on Z. In this case, my starting frame will be 0, and I'll just need to click here to add a keyframe. To ensure the animation exists, we need to add a second frame which must be at the last frame. So now, on the Z rotation, set -360. In my case, the value is like this because I want a clockwise rotation. However, as you can see, the animation is not consistent in its rotational motion. To solve this problem, split the screen in this way and open the graph editor option. This curve you see actually determines the animation. So as you can see, it starts slowly, then gains a stable speed and finally slows down, so it's not linear. To make it a constant animation, we have to select the curve, right-click and select Interpolate and click on Linear. This way, the speed is constant, so once we reach the end of the animation, it starts over in a constant manner. This is simply the way a loop animation is created. Let's repeat the same process for the other text. So we set the starting keyframe, which will be at 0, and the final frame, which will be at -360. The curve will appear in the graph editor screen, so we'll select it and right-click on the linear option. This is the simplest method to create a loop animation. Stay until the end of the video to see how to properly export the animation for the best result. In this part of the video, I'll show you how to set up the scene and lighting. Let's start by splitting the 3D scene into 2 screens and adding a camera using Shift+A. Move the camera slightly, add an empty object and enlarge it with the S key. We will use this empty object to link our camera. To do this, select the camera, go to Object Properties and select the Track To option. With the dropper tool, select our empty object. Now the camera will always point towards the empty object. Go to View and select Active Camera. Now the camera is perfectly connected. Now you just need to frame the text well. I want it to be slightly seen from above. To frame it well, move the empty object. You can change the camera's lens to a wide-angle one by selecting the edge and moving it. I prefer an effect of this kind, but you can modify it to your liking. For me, this result is perfect. You can hide all editing elements to have a cleaner screen. Now we need to add materials to our text, but in this case, we need to use geometry nodes. Click on one of the 2 texts, and by going into the geometry nodes editor, you will find a node called Set Material. Thanks to this node, you can set a material. I have already created some, but I will show you how to do it from scratch. Let's add a new material and give it a name. Go to Set Material and select that material. Change the viewport shading to Material Preview and change the color of the material. As you can see, our material has been set correctly. Let's do the same for the second text as well. This material is very simple to make. I set a fairly dark blue color. Then I set metallic to the maximum, so 1. Same for specular, which is set to the maximum. As the last value, I set roughness to the value 0.1. The next thing we need to do is insert an image as an environment texture. To do this, you need to go to World Property and click on this button next to Color and click on Environment Texture. Now click on the Open button to add the image. For this tutorial, the image I used is available for free on Gumroad. You can find the link in the description. So select the image and click on Open Image. Now by changing the viewport to render, you will see the image we just inserted. If you want a transparent background, you can go to Render Properties, and in the Film section, click the Transparent option. In this part, I will show you my light setting. I skip the part where I add them one by one and show you how I place them with their respective values. But first, it is important that you activate the bloom option. You can find it within render properties. Make sure you are working in Eevee. The settings I used are threshold set to 8.2, knee set to 0.2, radius set to 5.8. I left the color white. Intensity is set to 0.06 and clamp is set at 0. For the lighting, I used 5 lights, 2 pointing from above and 3 from below. The lighting is always a subjective part. In this case, you can either replicate it completely or get inspired. The first 2 lights are used to create this red glow. The circular light has a power of 160,000 watts and is the one that mainly creates the glow. The second weaker light is set to 16,000 watts and is used to give a slightly reddish tone. Then I have a light that points from the bottom with a teal color or similar with a power of 16,000 watts. The fourth light is positioned to the side and compared to the third light it has a lower power, fixed at 10,000. The color is a light blue. The last light is positioned behind the 2 texts and is used to illuminate this part here. This light too has a power of 10,000 and a light blue color. The last thing I added is a plane as a background. You can add it with Shift plus A, and with the S key, you enlarge it and then position it behind. To this plane, I created a separate material with a black color. I set metallic to the maximum. Specular is set to 0.05 and roughness is set to 0.46. We have reached the final part of this project. To export this animation, you need to go to Output Properties. In this section, set the dimensions of your frame. In my case, it is set to 1920 by 1920. Set frame rate to 60 fps to have a smoother animation. Make sure your end frame is set correctly. In this case, my end frame must be set to 1000. In the Output section, select the destination folder where the files will be saved. We will export the animation in PNG. To start the render of the animation, go to Render and select Render Animation. It will probably take some time, but in the end, you will find with a folder full of images. The last thing we have to do is merge these images into a video sequence. To create the animation, we will use Blender. To do this, we need to change our 3D space. Switch the 3D scene to View Sequence. Do the same for the second screen, ensuring that the second screen has the Preview option. Now you're ready to create the animation. To import your sequence, click on Add. In the screen that appears, click on Image Sequence. This will open up your folders. You simply need to select the folder where you exported your images and select them all. Ensure that all images are selected and click on Add Image Strip. Now that we have correctly imported our images, Blender will stitch them together. The only thing you need to do is to make sure your clip is correctly inserted, so make sure your sequence starts from frame 0. If everything is set correctly, you will see in your preview that the animation is looping, and you just need to export the animation in FFmpeg format. Go to Output Properties. Select the folder where the video will be exported. Make sure the export format is FFmpeg, and finally go to Render and select Render Animation. This tutorial has come to an end. I hope it has been helpful. For those who want this project, it's already available on my Gumroad page. You can find the link in the description. The project includes everything: lights, materials, and the entire composition. As mentioned before, this project is 100% customizable. Simply open the project, change your text, and in just a few moments, you'll have your own graphics. Thank you for following my video until the end. I invite you to subscribe to my channel and leave a comment or a like. See you soon in a new tutorial.